I'm going to go and sit down. We have mics over here, so we will conduct the question session from the table. Thanks very much. Professor Sepe. Sepe.
Just stand. Stand up.
Yeah, we've seen each other twice in 1 week, but you could come to the podium or you could stand at the. No, I know that too.
Yeah, let me first express my appreciation that this university decided to do this or bring about this seminar as a way of honoring Professor Makgoba. And I was saying to him when he did mention this that I hope that there'll be a transcription where this could actually turn out into a book. I mean, the insights that have been presented are very useful to take forward in terms of engagement with the subject of transformation and also the subject that is Professor Makgoba. And I should also just mention my first encounter with Professor Makgoba, which I thought was not that different from the people from VETS when they met him. Some people, when he came back, because he was in the media and all that, they decided to say, we need to welcome him. But it was an attempt also to get what you call black professionals, black scientists, all in one room. So we organized a meeting, and he came on time. He was all by himself, and the meeting was supposed to start at 7. By 5 to 7, he was restless. But I think by 10 past 7, he had decided to leave. And the people were coming and they were saying, where's this fellow that we're supposed to be welcoming? And I remember his remarks that if people don't take themselves seriously and they don't come on time. So for me, it was, damn, what an arrogant fellow. He couldn't even wait for it. But a lesson was presented, that if you're professionals, you must actually behave professionally. But I think for me, what was most fascinating, and actually, because one of the articles that I wrote, which Matata Tsedu liked and gave it prominence, and I think in a sense, AD was speaking to that, it was titled, A Cat Among the Pigeons. Precisely because he did cause some bit of commotion. And I spoke to a number of people, one of them being Eskia Mpatele. And Eskia made a statement that people found very strange because he was considered to be highly celebrated and treated well at VETS. And he said, actually, Professor Makgoba is the best of us. He's the best of us because he did not allow himself to suffer silently. That when there was injustice, he spoke against it. And the interesting thing about that, it also goes back to what Russell was saying, that any posture, even how minute or shift it might be, at that point, it always comes out as radical. And I cannot imagine that they would have shifted the discourse on transformation without an assertion that was unapologetic. And I do not agree with the characterization that Russell put in terms of whether he was not aware of this. I think he was always very clear about the issue of knowledge production and exacting standards. And also, I remember when he had a seminar at VETS, which I attended, where he had to actually remind the VETS people that actually you speak to me as if I'm an outsider. I'm a member of this university. But the language at the time was always that the black people were outsiders who should be very pleased to have been accommodated But anyway, that is at the personal level. But there's something that I think is also fundamental that he disrupted, especially when he came to this university. The first disruption which you found among black people is what Russell says, it's actually, let me call it white supremacy. It's interesting how when you look at our own documents in higher education, the word white supremacy does not exist. And these are universities that will always invoke Mandela. But if you go and read Mandela's speech on the dock, he talks about white supremacy as the biggest challenge. But when you talk about the white supremacy, we're talking about a thought system that has afflicted both black and white, where even black people themselves become white supremacists, in the sense that for them, what the white people say carries more weight. There is no contestation around it. What becomes almost a norm. And what Professor Makgoba was able to do is that there is no meek way of putting it in a way that is so incremental. Actually, Martin Luther King talks about it as the tranquilizing pill of gradualism. And later he says why we can't wait, mainly because he realized that this so-called incrementalism has become a problem. But now coming to this university, one thing that was a disruption was the notion that you cannot find blacks. The transformation in terms of the number of people, I mean, the statistics were shocking that within 7 years, he was able to do this. And yet the language was, no, they're nowhere to be found. So that was the first disruption. The second disruption is what we had come to accept, again, which falls within white supremacy, where black and women, once they get into positions, they say, I'm the only one around here. Effectively saying you can't find. And we've seen some vice chancellors where you see a vice chancellor going there, he's the only black person, and the whole room is a sea wall of white faces. And as he walks with a sense of achievement that he's different from others. And that's the extent to which people are colonized. Then the third one is the issue of making sure that research is very central to the knowledge, to transformation, that you cannot talk about transformation without putting the notion of excellence in it. But I think what was most objectionable and offending at first, and I was saying that, and actually I wrote that article as a product of it. What was offending is what Mamdani later says, that it was only when he came to South Africa that he found some curious notion that institutions that claim to be custodian of excellence, says the institutions all over the world, when they talk about excellence, is that they are pursuing it. They don't have the arrogance. And at Wits at the time, Wits positions itself as if it's a custodian of excellence. Says once you reach that stage, you're finished. And Professor Makgoba offended many of my professors when he actually questioned their international standing and that they are not peers. And one thing that he said, and I'll finish, is the concept of explaining to the people what peer rate mean, that it does not mean, because what those guys were saying is that, no, but how can you say that I've got a PhD from Oxford? He says, no. That getting degrees from a number of universities does not mean you are equal to your peers. It means you were a student in those universities. And that was offensive. Anyway, I'm glad that he came here, but I cannot imagine that any other posture, rather than a radical articulation of a position, would have shaped the system as it has done so far.
Thank you, Zipe. Last week.